Morning, everybody. Apologies for my lateness in joining. A few technical issues, as ever, when you're presenting, always the way. I'm Rupert Irons. I'm one of the voluntary directors for the cluster. And for those of you that have been coming to calls for a while, you'll know that I spoke to you last year, probably 6 to 9 months ago, about our intention to support mentoring in a more proactive way, particularly with university students. And we've run a bit of a pilot since then, which I want to update you all about and tell you, what we learned through that and how that adjusts our plans going forward. But for all of those of us that live in University City, you'll know that the students are starting to come back and we're at the start of an exciting new academic year. So a great opportunity now to launch schemes across multiple universities in our region to really help those students that have been doing substitute degrees to sort of provide a broader range of perspectives and help them with their skills development that will obviously help them into work. And I'll touch on that more as we go through. So this will take about 10-15 minutes to talk through, chance then for a few questions or discussion, but I'm also going to be looking for action and support from yourselves as members of the cluster. Let's just roll on. Okay, so that's just briefly the agenda. I'm not going to labour it too much because it'll become apparent as we go through it. The idea is just to set into context what we're doing in the cluster, then have a look at mentoring in the broader sense, and then tell you about the plans that we have for this next academic year. So I think the first thing is to connect. Why is mentoring important to us in the cluster? Well, as you know, we're a voluntary organisation. We don't have any standing funding, so it's very much very much the effort of people and the initiatives that we come up with as a team and supporting other initiatives in the region is very much our purpose. The work that we did over the last 18 months, 2 years ago, was to redefine that. And this is how it sits, these sort of 4 pillars of the cluster purpose. And you'll see that mentoring is one of those 4, because we know that it supports growth, both individually and economically, in terms of the growth of people within the region. And for those people that have read that really insightful cybersectoral survey, in 2025, you can see that the numbers of professionals or cyber professionals working and living in the Southwest has increased. So not on our own, we're certainly not achieving that on our own, but with the Southwest Cyber Resilience Centre, with universities and with the companies that are establishing themselves in the region, that's definitely driving growth. But it is still a challenge. And in fact, interestingly, the number of 8%, which is the UK cyber businesses that are in the Southwest, hasn't moved as a percentage of the whole. So obviously in real terms, that is an increase in numbers, which reflects the point I just mentioned. But actually, relatively across the country, we're remaining the same as we are. And the ongoing challenges for the region, which I don't need to dwell on too much here, but around social mobility and economic deprivation, constantly remain a challenge. And certainly from our engagement with the universities, we know that the challenge for students that have come here to study and maybe want to stay in the region is to find work. And that's where we're hoping to try and make a difference. Clearly, we have some world-class universities in our region, and as well as a whole raft of secondary education, particularly in the technical industries, which have been growing. So Exeter, Plymouth and Bournemouth all have universities, and they all have students who are doing cyber-related degrees or computer science degrees that want to connect and want to develop. And clearly we have a community here of professionals. So if we can make the two meet and exchange knowledge, experience and ideas, then that can only be a positive thing. We have relationships with all of those universities. And over the last year or so, we've had a very close relationship with Bournemouth, which has allowed us to run a very brief pilot, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. And we've had ongoing discussion with Exeter and Plymouth, both whom the faculty heads and teachers or leaders are part of the cluster, but also with their centralised university mentoring services as well, which offer core mentoring across the whole university, just irrespective of what faculty you're in. So what we're going to try and do here is to try and join the two together so that we have faculty-focused mentoring. So it is cybersecurity students with cybersecurity professionals, but also leveraging what support, training and experience exists in the centralised schemes, particularly in Plymouth and Exeter University, so that you as a mentor would get that benefit as well. So where are we at the moment? Certainly Bournemouth are keen to continue and to do a full year of mentoring. So we'll come back to that in a sec. Exeter is supportive of this and definitely want to look at doing this for this year. I haven't yet had confirmation from Plymouth due to leave and absences and things, but I should be picking up that next week. And so hopefully, certainly the earlier conversations we had, they're very supportive, so we'll be able to move straight into that as well. So it'd be amazing if this year we could be delivering some level of mentoring support to all 3 universities across the region. That's definitely our ambition. So a little bit on the pilot that we did. We were a little bit late to get going this last year, but we ran a brief pilot, which was the second half of their academic year, sort of March through to July. Clearly, that isn't the optimum time for it, with students starting to prepare for exams, and then clearly, quite a long summer break. So we had a relatively modest sort of uptake. We had around 11 students being mentoring, with 7 mentors supporting. So thank you very much to those people who gave their time and effort. And each of them had probably 2 or 3 different mentoring sessions. But I think there was another real benefit in it, which was actually we got going and we started to establish the mechanisms to make this happen. Because clearly there's some approvals to be done within the university. There's a registration process that needs to be done. There's management of the scheme, and there's enough protocols in place to ensure that it's safely conducted. So we managed to go through all of those hurdles and get that in place, which means that for this year, we'll be able to start with the benefit of that experience. What did the mentors and mentees talk about? Well, because of the time of year and we had many sort of final year students, a lot of the focus was very much looking towards the future on jobs. So there's a fair bit of CV review and development, interview advice, but also connecting them to or highlighting and signposting schemes, opportunities, businesses that might be of interest to them. And also actually the cyber pathways piece, because the work that the UK Cybersecurity Council has been doing is constantly changing. And whilst that was something that had been covered in student education, actually taking them back to understand where they fit into those cyber pathways for their careers was really useful as well. So there's a whole range of different things, and all of the feedback that I had, both from the university side, from the mentors, from their enjoyment of it, and via them from their mentees, was that it had been a positive experience. So certainly all the indicators are there that it is worth repeating and doing again. As I say, I think the time limitation was a challenge, and so we're definitely looking to overcome that this year and work much faster to get going over the next 2 to 3 weeks, and so that in October we can really be connecting mentors with mentees and starting to move ahead with this scheme. So far, I've assumed that people are familiar with mentoring. Maybe they've been mentored through their career, or maybe they provided it before. But just for those people that maybe haven't, I just thought I'd spend just a couple of seconds just highlighting what it is to us and where that benefit comes, so that you can sit and think, well, yeah, that's something I could do, and I'd be keen to support that. So I think, what are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to lift people's horizons from that educational environment to the world of work, and also where they fit into society, and all of the things that are going on around our sector within our region and nationally. There are so many different groups working and operating, all trying to promote and grow cybersecurity, and that's an exciting time to be in the sector, but it can be hard to navigate unless somebody lays out the roadmap for you. So that's one part of it. The other point is therefore to sort of improve their employability. It's one thing to have proven yourself through your academic attainment and your degree, but you've also got to sell yourself to an organisation to prove how you can leverage that knowledge, turn it into really useful experience for them and add value. And so a lot of the mentoring thing is giving that knowledge as to how to do that, the tips and tricks, and what you've seen during your career or maybe through your own career journey. And I think for those people that are maybe closer to having left education in our group here, if you've got a personal story and experience, that is a really compelling reason to be a mentor to others coming behind you. The other part of it, I think, is that actually, cybersecurity is a really broad church of skills and technologies and also management and soft skills as well. So being able to give a flavour of what that is like to students as they emerge into the workforce is really important as well. We have people who are doing a lot of program management, project management, stakeholder engagement, communication. It's not all around the tech. And on the other hand, you've got research and analysis roles that people are going into. So giving a real sense of that is really important as well, which I certainly found for the two students that I was mentoring, helped them identify where they wanted to go in the cybersecurity sector, because they had a really broad perspective at the start. By the end of that conversation, they'd started to realize that, there were some specific channels that they could pursue and types of jobs that they should be looking for. What does a mentor need? You don't need to bring anything other than your experience, your knowledge, your patience, your listening, and your willingness to support. But hopefully through the partnership, particularly with Exeter and Plymouth, where they have the centralised mentoring schemes, we'll be able to offer some level of training and support if you feel that would be helpful for you. And then also there will be ongoing support available, and even some events that they run, which won't be specific to the cyber fraternity, but we can maybe join in with. So we'll confirm those details and more of that to follow. So what do you have to do? Yeah, there is a bit of a commitment. It's not excessive. We would be looking for at least 4 sessions over 6 months with a single student. Some mentors have taken on more than one mentee, which is brilliant, and some will do more than 4 sessions. So if you were to aim for a monthly session, accepting that some will drop by the wayside, that would meet that commitment. But it isn't. It definitely isn't a maximum. And there's lots of flexibility when we're up and running for mentors and mentees to decide what's appropriate and useful for both sides of that relationship. There isn't. It can be fitted into a normal working day. It is, most of the mentoring is remote, and that's normally the way it's done. So it's an hour here and there and a little bit of prep. What do you need to be able to do? Yes, communication skills are useful. I think those of us that are more longer in the tooth and experienced in the sector, we've got a huge amount of knowledge to share if that's necessary and useful. But really, obviously, we know the skill of a mentor is often, to ask powerful questions and allow people to communicate as well. So, so having balanced communication skills is really important. And then the other one, I think, is this willingness to share. And there's a certain amount of humility in that as well, because it's not just about how well we've done, but it's also the lessons we've learned on the way. And that's the failures and the challenges are as important as the successes in helping them understand what life looks like when they come into the working sector. But there are some real benefits. And certainly, I get a sense of personal fulfillment from doing it. A sense that, you are helping and bringing in people that will be doing our sorts of jobs in the future. And it helps me develop my own skills, because actually for me, that communication piece and the active listening, as my wife often tells me, are not my greatest strengths. So I'm still developing through this as well. So I think, there's a lot at a personal level, but I'd also like to lift it up to an organizational lens. And certainly for organizations that are working into the public sector, like the company that I work for does, there's a real requirement to deliver social value as well. And actually, within that social value model, some of the achievement criteria, 2.2 and 2.3, are around developing skills, in your workforce and in the educational space as well. So this mentoring and engagement piece actually has a real contribution and something that can be reported against as part of your social value. Noting that a lot of those contracts are asking you to do things specific to the contract or the work that you might be delivering for the public sector, then actually, is there an opportunity for you to connect some sort of work experience or internship with your mentees into the client space that you're delivering against? Something to think about. That certainly would be a very powerful message, and that would be a real enhancement to the mentoring scheme as well. So I'm about up for time. So where are we then? So we've done a pilot. Yes, it worked. It worked out, and it was good to get the admin in place. There's a bit more admin in place to do because we want to broaden this to all 3 universities within the region. But to do that, we definitely need more mentors. So I'm extremely grateful to those 7 that stood up for the first pilot. And I'm now coming to the bit where I come around with my cap and go, come on, folks, let's get into this and really support it from the cluster to provide this benefit. So what I'd love to know is amongst us, who would be interested in supporting and feels that they can make that commitment this year. So there is a form that I've done, an expression of interest. It's not a firm commitment at this stage. It is literally to say, I'd be interested in learning more. And I think I'd like to support. So just to ask a few questions, judge your background around your experience, what it is you want to bring to mentoring. And then what we'll do is once we've got hopefully a good cohort of mentors together, we start to do some more focus calls around actually how it will run, what the timelines are, what training support is available, and so on and so forth. So I'm definitely at expression of interest stage, but I would like to do that within the next 2 weeks, so that by the end of September, we've got a cohort that we can then take into actually mobilizing into mentoring for this year. To achieve that, it will be sent out after the meeting. But if you want to, this QR code, I promise it is genuine. I've checked it myself this morning. It's not one of those stickers on a bus stop. This will take you to the form. That information is all kept within the Southwest Cluster's SharePoint tenancy. So that's kept within the cluster. It's not going to any other work environment or personal environment, anything of that sort. So any of your personal data that goes in there, that's where it's going to be. That's where it's going to be stored. Okay, that is me as an introduction. I'm very happy to talk to anybody one-to-one. My email address is development@the cluster. And again, I'll put that in the chat afterwards. So if anyone wants to set up a call to talk about it, please do. But otherwise, I would just please ask for volunteers to support, because I think we can really achieve something quite significant this year, really achieve our objectives and purpose in the cluster and make a huge difference. Thanks so much.